The sun is the principal source of energy on the Earth's surface. Sunshine evaporates millions of tons of water from the oceans and sea every day. When winds push moisture-laden air to high altitudes, it condenses into mist and clouds and may sometimes fall as rain. The Red Sea, on the western side of the Arabian Peninsula, is a large basin of seawater with restricted circulation in a very hot environment. Westerly winds push evaporated water from the Red Sea into the Sarawat, or Azir, mountains on a daily basis, and mist occurs frequently at higher elevations. Juniper trees were once the dominant plant species in the higher parts of the Sarawat, from 1,800 meters to 3,000 meters above sea level. Most juniper forests have been destroyed by man, who has used their wood for building and for fuel. Few untouched forests remain in the Sarawat, and Raidah is one of them. Raidah was protected traditionally for more than 2 centuries. In the forest, the juniper trees, which reach 5 to 10 meters high, trap mist and cause frequent dews. As a consequence, water availability on the ground increases dramatically. This aids the formation of natural streams on the steep terrain, which add to the diversity of the habitat. In 1989, the National Commission for Wildlife Conservation and Development established Raidah Reserve. It is located on the escarpment about 10 kilometers west of the city of Abha and has an area of about 12 kilometers squared. Recently, an old dirt track has been widened, increasing the number of vehicles passing through the reserve en route to and from Raidah village at the bottom of the escarpment. Raidah Reserve has one of the highest levels of biodiversity of any site in the kingdom. Botanists have listed 336 flowering plant species between the top of the escarpment and the wadi below, representing approximately 1/6 of the flowering plant diversity in the kingdom. 3 main vegetation zones can be recognized. Firstly, the juniper forest stretches from the top of the escarpment down to 1,800 meters above sea level. In the upper parts, between 2,600 and 2,800 meters, many trees are draped with lichens. These trap moisture and help increase humidity levels to between 50% in summer and 80% in winter. Secondly, an open scrub zone lies at middle altitudes, where acacias and aloes are common. Finally, a more open, grassy zone is located at the lowest levels and on south-facing slopes. High plant diversity is matched by high animal diversity. The colours and scent of wild flowers attract insects and birds, such as butterflies and sunbirds, which feed on nectar and help plant fertilization by transporting pollen to neighbouring flowers. Chameleons are usually well camouflaged and so seldom seen, but can be common in places. They stalk insects very stealthily, with only their eyes moving for long periods of time, but they can move rapidly across the ground between suitable plants. On the other hand, some lizards can be very conspicuous, especially the blue and orange agamas, which perch prominently on rocky outcrops. Baboons play an important role in plant dispersal. They are voracious eaters of fruits and seeds, and viable seeds are later passed in their feces. Baboon troops can cover large distances swiftly across the very steep terrain of the forest. Grazing by cattle and goats, and dust and rock spoil from the dirt track can have a large impact on the vegetation, and this has repercussions on animal and plant diversity in some parts of the reserve. Opuntia, the prickly pear cactus, is an exotic or non-native plant species that has been introduced into the reserve. It usually grows in areas of disturbed soil and is used by researchers as an indicator of severe degradation. Birds and baboons helped transport their seeds to new sites inside the reserve. Forested habitats are usually rich in bird species, and Raidah Reserve is no exception. Dr. Stephen Newton and his colleagues have recorded 98 species within this small reserve in recent years, and an additional 25 species are present around its margins. This total represents about 25% of all bird species recorded in the kingdom.
Many up? Two above it.
What makes Raidah so special is that it contains substantial populations of several endemic birds. Now, an endemic species is one whose world range is limited to an isolated geographical area, such as a mountain range or an oceanic island. Raidah Reserve sits in the middle of the Arabian Mountains endemic bird area, which is a large triangular-shaped piece of ground stretching through the southwest Saudi Arabian mountains and into the Yemen highlands. Within this overall endemic bird area, we have about 10 endemic bird species, most of which are very poorly known. Over the last 4 years, NCWCD has been undertaking a research program on these birds to try and find out a little more about their role in the juniper forest ecosystem. The birds include the Arabian red-legged partridge, the Arabian woodpecker, and several finches, thrushes, and warblers. Our main method of studying these birds is to capture them in mist nets and to put small rings on their legs. One is a metal ring with a unique number, and the others are colored rings, which helps us to individually identify the bird. While we have the bird in the hand, we weigh it and measure it, and we can inspect its breeding condition. What we hope, using these methods, what we hope to find out about the birds is a little on their lifetime, how far they move, what sort of habitats they utilize, and the sorts of foods they eat. So far, our study has been going 4 years, and for some species we have found they have stayed faithful to a very small area within the forest, but other species move around the area much more. Such a species might be the Yemen linnet, who virtually solely eats juniper berries, which appear in different parts of the forest at different times of year.
As well as the endemics, there are many other beautiful African species resident in the juniper forest. The olive pigeon is one such species, which has only recently been discovered in Arabia. As with many other vegetarian birds, juniper berries form a large part of its diet. The much smaller and acrobatic white-breasted white-eye not only eats fruit, but also takes insects and drinks nectar like the sunbirds. Some birds, such as the blackcap, only use the forest as a stopover site on migration between Europe and Africa, although a few may spend the entire winter in the reserve. The blackcap is another species which eats both fruit and insects. There are several birds of prey resident in the forest, and these mostly eat small mammals, lizards and snakes. The kestrel can often be seen hovering over more open areas of the escarpment, looking for such prey. Research has shown that the number of other endemic life forms is highly correlated with the presence of endemic birds. This places special responsibility on the National Commission for Wildlife Conservation and Development to protect and manage the juniper forest ecosystem, not only for the benefit of the birds, but for all plant and animal life. The area has outstanding natural beauty, and its high biodiversity may harbour as yet unidentified resources, such as medicinal plants, that may be of potential benefit to mankind.